Alright guys, welcome to this tutorial and welcome to the introduction to Premiere Pro. This is the go-to program when I'm selecting footage or editing like really big projects. I also do my sound design here, and yeah, it's always a kind of workflow between After Effects and Premiere Pro. I love both of these programs, and yeah, over time I developed a pretty good workflow. And in this tutorial I want to show you Premiere Pro, the whole interface and where you can find the different settings and how to make the first steps into your editing career. So let's jump right in. When you open up Premiere Pro, it's going to look like that. Here you can start a new project. You can also open existing projects. And here you can see a preview of projects I have done in the past. So these ones, I could just open up right away by clicking here. You can also create team projects, which can be really helpful if you work with other editors on the same project. So you pretty much share the footage to your editing partner, and then you can create a team project, and all changes you're doing to your project, they will be applied to your mate's project. This is pretty cool. I use this, for example, here, creating these Creator Club tutorials with my editors, so we can work on the same projects. And further on, you can also open the team projects here and also open up Premiere Rush projects. But this is not so important for us right now. We want to open up a new project. So we click on here, and this is directly bringing us to the folder where we want to save the project. And yeah, structure is super important. Really take your time to name your clips right, create folders, and create a good project structure. So with time, the project's going to be really big, and you will have a lot of footage. You will have a lot of different clips, screenshots, audio files, whatever you are including in your edit. So it's super important to have everything structured so you find the right files for your edit right when you need them. So first of all, we can name our project. I will just call this one Premiere Pro. You can choose the location where you want to place that project, but let's name this project Test Project. And when I open up the location here, I'm going to create a new folder called Test Project. And you can name it whatever your project, your video is name. And in the Test Project folder, I usually create the Premiere Pro folder. I'm just going to name it PR, or if you want to write it, Premiere Pro. So in here, we are going to save all the data. Also in here, Premiere Pro is going to create autosaves. So you can decide whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So every 5 or 10 minutes, your project is going to get autosaved, which is pretty nice, because if you close the project for some reason, or your Premiere Pro closes sometimes just randomly, you're pretty much safe. You haven't saved, worst case, the last 5 minutes. So that's definitely better than have nothing saved. So, okay, now we have named our project and we have choose the project location. And that's pretty much all I'm doing here. The rest we're going to do in the next window. So let's create that project. Boom. And now we are in Premiere Pro, and we have a lot of windows here, which we are going to talk about in a second. But I'm going to import some footage first so I can show you the actual windows better. So to import footage, we're going down here, and that's our bin. Here we're dropping all the media. So here it says import your media to start. This is exactly what we are going to do. So you have different options here. You can just drag a clip inside, just like that, here in that window, and it's going to appear. You can double click on it to preview that clip up here on the top. And another method I'm using usually is pressing Command Y. Learning the shortcuts and using shortcuts gonna make you a really efficient and good editor. So the less you have to click with your mouse, the faster you're going to be. So Command Y, first shortcut, you can import clips here, direct to the folder. Let's say I want to import the whole folder here because I need all of these clips. You can just click on that folder and click import. And now it's going to create a folder right in Premiere Pro, so you can keep your structure and you have all the clips in here. Double click, you're going to have that option to preview that clip here on the top. And on that icon here, you can go always a folder back. Then in this bin here, you have different options to preview your files and footage. So right now we are seeing the icons, and I can here switch to the current view, which is the list view now, which can be faster because here you can open the bin and see what's inside, open a folder and work from here on. In here you can create new folders, so you can have a great structure by just clicking here on that icon which says new bin, and we just call this test 2. And you have a new bin, and you can drop and import footage in here. And renaming the bin is pretty easy. You just have to press enter, and you can just type in whatever you want to name that folder. Let's call this one Rolls Royce, enter, and this one we can just delete. Yes, and in here the list view is pretty nice because if you compare it to the preview, for the preview you can benefit by like scrubbing through your clip to see what's the clip about. But if you have changed to that list view, you can actually see that frame rate shot on. You can see different other insights about your clip. You can see the video info, the size, and yeah, this can be pretty helpful if you are looking for a specific clip. Nice. So having that said, you could also increase the size here, which can make sense if you have a lot of clips, and you can just change it to the size you want. Nice. Down at the bottom, beside creating that bin, this one is really important, creating a new item. And new items can be different things. It can be a sequence, which we are going to need, because right now, like this, we cannot edit a video. We need to create a sequence first. So that's a container, and we need this container to create edits inside, and into this container we're dropping footage, and this is like the base outlines which gives the frame rate, the size of our footage and the sequence, and we need to create a sequence to start working with our clips. We can also create some adjustment layers, which I'm going to show in a second what they do. Let's create a comp. So we have different options to create a sequence to start working. The fastest one is probably just to drag it into that timeline window here. So here's no sequence selected yet, so we could just drop media and boom, we have created our first sequence. Nice. And you can play the video just by pressing spacebar, and it's going to show the video. Now we have created a sequence based on the file we have put in. So this file we can see here. Here we have our sequence. This file is shot on 25 frames per second with a file video size of 2160 times 3840 pixels. So that's the same size of our sequence. So if we want to create a custom sequence, let's say we want to create something smaller, we just click here on that icon, create a new sequence, and now we are in the new sequence tab. In here you will find some presets, which can be helpful, but I reckon to either use really a clip, because it's really important to match the sequence settings with your clip settings. So this is a good and fast option to match these settings of your clip. But if you say you want to create something custom, just go here and click on sequence, and now you can just pretty much go for any of these presets here. Go to settings, and we set it here to custom. Now you can choose your frame rate, whatever you want to have. So let's say I want to have 25, a 16:9 video or 9:16. You can change that ratio here. Square pixel is always the way to go, and the rest you can leave like that actually. And we can now name this one 16:9, for example. So this is the sequence name showing us here, and we can also store and save all of these settings, so we don't have to create this exact settings again and again. So you could just click on save preset and give it a name. Let's call this one 16:9, and just for in that case Premiere Pro. Okay, we have just created our first preset, and it's loading here and appearing in the custom folder. So you can always just come back and use this preset, click OK, and you have created a preset and a comp with your size. So if you want to change that size later on, you can always change your composition settings. You just go up here into sequence, and sequence settings brings you back into that menu. Yes, this is pretty nice and helpful. So let's create a sequence by dragging it in. So we have the same size as the footage we want to work with. I'm going ahead and showing you here the different options you have. So you can also create an adjustment layer, which is pretty much just a layer you can drag on top, and you can apply effects on it, which I'm going to show you in a second. You can create some different other things here, but these are the most used ones. So, we're at the beginning, so let's stick with that. You can create a sequence here and an adjustment layer. These are going to be pretty important for you. Let's give you a basic overview of all windows we have in here. So by now the bins here, and of course you also have here a media browser, which you can direct to your folder, and you can also import footage from here, which can be pretty helpful. And you have a library if you use a library, if you have any assets in here. But these are not too important. The most important are pretty much the bins and the project window right here. So this is clear. We have here on the top, this is going to be our preview. We can open up the clip here. So by double clicking, we're just going to open up a preview window where we can, of course, preview our clip and see what is this clip about. You can play this clip just by pressing spacebar, or you can just drag it here with your mouse. Here you have different settings, same pretty much to that preview here. You wonder, man, that looks quite similar, but this is the program preview, and this is going to show us what we have created in our sequence. So this is the preview of our timeline, what we have created in our sequence. And this preview here is just showcasing us the clip we have selected. And yeah, just to preview. And in here, we can also create a selection. What does that mean? Is we can create an in point and out point. And by setting these in and out points, we can create a selection. So let's say we just want these second to drag into our sequence. So we can actually create an in point pressing I and out point pressing O. Now we have this icon here, which says drag video only. And now we can drag that video into our sequence. And it's just the area we have selected with the in and out points. But of course, in the timeline here, we can still change the duration. So yeah, that's not a selection which stays forever, which is locked. You're pretty flexible with that, but this can help with long clips to select different parts and get all the selection in your main timeline. So in here, you can also set the resolution. So right now I'm playing everything in full resolution. But if you have really a lot of clips and they have high resolution, you might want to drop this to half resolution. Exactly the same here for the preview. Now it's showing the whole preview of our sequence, what we have created in half resolution. You can even drop it lower to something like that. And that's gonna help to preview really high resolution footage. But if your computer is good, you can of course review your project in full resolution. And in here you can also go further into your shot, which can be helpful, or further out. So this is going to be 200, so we are closer in that shot. And yes, we can fit is going to make it fit to that comp. You have exactly the same options here, which can be helpful if you mask something, for example. Yes, and moving on to the another tabs up here. So you have effect controls. This one is really important. So now we don't see anything because we haven't really selected our clip yet. But if we click on it like that, we see all the effect controls of the clip we have. So, and this is really important because here is where all the editing actually, takes place. We can change the scale here. We can scale in, scale out. We can change the position of our clip. If we select motion, we can actually see the outlines and where our clip starts and ends. We can change the rotation. We can change the opacity. So if there's a clip below, you can mix it up. You can change the blending modes. And let's bring up a clip here on the top. And let's reset everything. So now I have a second clip here on the top. You can just freely move them here, and Command C, you will always go one step back. So for example, now I'm changing like the blending mode to screen. So you can see you have a lot of options here to play around with the footage, to customize it to your needs, what I'm going to show you in all the tutorials. So blending modes are really important. You have the opacity, like you can create fades with that and everything else. You can also have the option to edit the volume and create masks. So, and a mask is pretty much something like that. We can just like mask out, for example, the wheel here. So a mask will just show a selected area, the wheel now, for example, so we can mask out parts to create transitions or different effects. We can also invert that mask here, go in with a scale keyframe. So this could be one transition, for example. You have all the different effects control here, which is really important to know. Yes, and this is like one of the most important windows here. And with all of the effects here, or different effects we can drag in from the effects tab, you can create keyframes, and you are going to create a lot of keyframes in your editing career. And it's pretty easy. It's always the same. For example, opacity, you want to keyframe the opacity. So we click on that stopwatch here, and now we created a keyframe. And this keyframe saved the data of 100%. Let's move forward in time. And let's say here we want to set have a transition. So the opacity of the top clip is should be at 0. So let's put in 0, and now we can see we have the keyframe telling the clip, okay, here at exact this point I want the opacity to be at 100. Okay, and then it goes from here to 0, and at this point I want it to be at 0. So that's exactly what the clip does now, because we are telling it by setting keyframes. And that's pretty much the whole thing about editing, is setting keyframes. So you drag in effects and you set keyframes to them. So you tell the effect when to start, how high should be the value. And like keyframing is a really, really important skill, which we are going to learn in a lot of tutorials. So one thing I want to mention here to the timeline, you can also, you have clips here, and if you have clips on top of each other, they will always be displayed the one on the top. So if I now drag this clip on top of the other one, this one's going to be placed first. So it's really important to know that the clip which is on top is always going to be shown in the final video, in the preview here. And moving on, you have some different scopes here and audio mixer, but these are not so important for now. You also have the text option to create transcripts and create captions, but we are going to get there later. But now I just want to give you like an overlook to everything. And this is actually like the most important window here. Like you have the selection, you have the effects control. And if you don't see the windows like I have them here, you can just go up to Windows, Workspace, and make sure you selected all panels. Maybe it's going to set to something else because you are just opening Premiere Pro for the first time. So maybe it's here at learnings sometimes. So it might look like that. Don't get confused, no worries. You can just go up to Workspace and click on all panels, and it's going to look exactly like my setup right now. And here we come to the next point. You are free to move things around in Premiere Pro. That's what I really love. So let's say I want that window to be here. You can just like take it here and drag it to somewhere else. If you edit 9:16 footage, you might want to have your full screen here at the left, so you can preview it bigger. You can scale it down. So you go here to that rim, and you can just scale it up and down. And yeah, you're completely free to move. And I know at the beginning it can be really confusing, and you're like, man, I mixed up everything. This does not look like I want to edit my video. Not a problem. You just go up here to Window, Workspace again, and either you reset it to the save layout, which is going to be standard right now, or you can either go to all panels, or if you have create your own one. Let's say I want to create a 9:16 workspace. So I always wanted to look like that. If I want to edit 9:16 footage, you can just set everything up, like position all the windows where you want them to have, and then go up to Windows and save this new workspace. And you can just name it, let's say 9:16, boom, okay, that's saved. So we go back, we want to edit 16:9 footage, not a problem. Here, so this is our 16:9 footage, and then we're like, okay, let's edit a video for Instagram. So let's switch to the 9x16 workspace, and instantly you have switched your workspace. So you can fully customize that, which can be really helpful. So let's go back to the old panels and move on. So by now, here's the project window. Here's where we drag in our footage, and here's the timeline. This is our place to be to edit. And up here, you can see the effects controls. You have the preview. You can do your selections here. Oh, another thing I want to mention, if you have your selection here, you can just pretty much drag in that video plus audio by just holding down on the video with your mouse and dragging it in. Just like that, you have dragged in the whole video, which can be super helpful and super nice. Cool. So let's move on a little bit more with the timeline here. You have that slider, and this slider pretty much makes it possible to display like a timeline of, what do we know, like 3 hours here in total. But you can also just go in and like do really precise work for like keyframing or cutting and do all kind of different stuff. Yes, it is really important to know that you can also turn on and off layers. So right now you see this video is activated. You can turn it on and off here. And also you can see here on the top, there is the time code or like the time we're in. So right now this clip is about almost 2 seconds long. So always see here the seconds of your video. You see the comp. And another thing which is really important, you can cut your clips by just going to the end of that clip and just dragging it to the cursor, for example. And if you have this icon here activated, the snap one, you can just boom, snap it to that slider, or if you have another clip on top. But if this one is deactivated, this can be pretty hard to nail it right. So you're like, oh no, I want to cut it right at the slider, but it's not snapping there. So just activate that snap up here. And you can also, the same thing as like turning off the video layer. Here on and off, you can turn off the audio. So this one is mute, so you can mute the track. I think these are like the most important things. You can also lock your layer, like this track. So now the whole track is locked and I cannot edit it. So I can just edit the audio right now. So this can also be really helpful. Nice. If you're here in your timeline and you have a lot of clips, it's really helpful to have the option here to label clips. So for example, here you can label this clip in that rosé, or you can go down and label it in, I don't know, Caribbean. And now with different types, for example, when I do a selection, I label them in different colors. So when I go in my big timeline, like zooming out, I can see, okay, these blue ones, this is my B-roll, for example, A-roll is the Caribbean. And now with a lot of clips, if you have a lot in your timeline, labeling makes a lot of sense. So you just have different options here. You can rename your clip. You can scale it to frame size, for example, which can be really helpful. Copy a clip. You can edit it in Adobe Audition. So the audio is going to be able to work in Adobe Audition. This is the audio program of Adobe. You can replace clips. You can replace it with an After Effects composition. So it's going to open up After Effects and create a dynamic link between the clip and your clip you're working now in After Effects. You can unlink the audio from the video file like I'm doing here. So you can delete that audio if you don't need it. This is pretty helpful. You can also, of course, label it, or you can nest clips. Nesting, basically what it does, it creates another container if you want. And we just call this one nested sequence 1, for example. And now everything I've selected is now in this nested subsequence. If you get further and advanced with editing, you're working with a lot of sequences and subsequences and nested comps. We are going to talk about this on a different day, just that you have seen. You can just like nest it here through that menu. You can open up the audio gain and lower the audio gain, or like increase it to edit your audio here. Of course, you can also use the essential sound. So there are a lot of ways to do different things. So yeah, that's pretty much the most important stuff for that menu here. I'm not using this one too much because for all of these, we're going to talk about shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts in a second, because you see, it takes so much time to do that right click and then to click unlink, for example. The shortcut is Command L, which is way faster. Command L, than just like going the right click way, going down, clicking the button, which takes a lot of time. If you do that like, I don't know, 200 times in a week, it's gonna save you a ton of time. Let's move on to the top window here, which is also pretty important to know that you have all these icons here. These can look confusing, but don't worry about them for now. The most used ones are pretty much here on the export frame. So you can just export one frame. So you can make like kind of a screenshot, and you can just choose the format you want to save that screenshot in. And of course, you can browse the folder where you want to save that screenshot. And if we talk about saving, it's really important to save your project. You save a project with Command S. You see, that's how I save my project manually. Of course, I also have the autosave activated, but like it's so intuitional. I'm saving my project like, I don't know, every 2 minutes just by quickly pressing Command S, which is really important. And in here, of course, you got that export frame. You can also toggle on proxies. If your computer is not so fast, you can create proxies for each clip. And here you can activate that button and it's going to show the proxies. But proxy is a different video for another day. And you have this icon, the loop playback, which can be pretty helpful because if we activate that loop icon, it's just going to loop the preview we have selected here with our in and out points. Yes, another thing I want to mention is you have that in and out points here, same like on the preview on the selection up here where we set the in and out points for our clips. We can set in and out points here with pressing I and O, and now this is the area which we are going to play. For example, if we check that loop icon, so it's just going to play that area. And this is also how we're going to export videos at the end. It's always important to have that in and out points set correctly. Yes, so that's pretty much the preview. We can see here what's going on in our main timeline. And next up, we have that window here on the right. And you have different windows to open up here. I'm quickly going to show you what they do. So all the way on the top, we have info. This is just giving us basic information about our clip we have selected. I'm not using this one a lot. You have the effects, which is pretty important. So you have all the effects in here. For example, if I want to add some color grading, I search for the Lumetri color effect. You can just drag this effect here on top of that clip I want to affect, and boom, it's going to show that effect in the effects control, which you already know where it's located. So you can see that here. Or if you have the clip selected, you can just double click here on that effect, boom, and it's applied to your clip. And now in the effects control, we can do all the changes like changing the exposure, for example, or like change the blacks, do like color grading, or all the other different cool effects you have inside of Premiere Pro. So you can go in here and just browse through some effects. So for video effects, you have like a lot going on. You have keying, you have distortion. You can just take your time and go in here and maybe apply some effects and just play around with it and see, okay, what does this effect do? So it can be pretty exciting. Just scroll through and play around with some cool effects. So let's open up the next one, which is Essential Graphics. Here you have previews of different templates, which you can of course use for titles. You can import different templates here and here at the bottom, which can be really helpful if you have that marked MOGRT files. You can just import them. You have the previews here and you can just add some titles. Also, if you create a title with Command T, which is a shortcut for that, you can edit the title in here. Okay, now the edit option here is not available because we don't have any graphics which we can edit. So which brings us to a really important bar, which I missed out to explain, which is probably the most important one. You have different tools here. Right now, the selection tool, which makes it possible to move around here and move stuff. And this is like the cursor for everything, which has the shortcut V. These shortcuts are super important. I'm going to talk about keyboard shortcuts in a second. Yeah, but just keep that in mind. You press V to always come back to that tool. You have the track select forward tool. So this can be really helpful if you have a lot of clips. And the next one is the track select forward and backward tool, which is really important because if you have a lot of tracks in here and you want to move them all at the same time, you can just click A or here on the select forward tool, and you can move all the clips, like everything to your right from the cursor is going to select and move. So you don't have to select all of them manually, because if you have a big timeline, this can make a huge difference. And same with the one track select backwards. Then the next one is the ripple edit tool. Let's say we want to cut here. Let's quickly delete the audio. Let's say we have the cut originally here, but we want to move it, make this clip longer and this one a little bit shorter. So the wrong way or the slow way would be make this one shorter and this one longer. So this takes 2 steps. But if you just use that tool, the ripple edit, which is B, you can just go in here to the cut and you can like move it. You see that here? You can just move it and the other clip is going to extend or going to get shorter. So this is really helpful. Next is the rolling edit. This is not going to change any length. See here, the total length of both clips is going to change. So you're pretty much changing where the cut is. Ripple edit is basically keeping the length of the right clip in this example and like just shorten the left one. Yes, so this can be really helpful in this case. But if you want to keep the length for the cut, because if you have cut on the beat, for example, you're going to have that rolling edit, and this is going to make that a lot easier to find the right spot where to cut between those 2 clips. Next up, we have that rate stretch tool. Yes, you can like stretch that clip, and you can see here, because we don't have more footage, it's just going to slow the footage. So if you want to make the clip shorter, it's going to speed it up. You see here, it's speeding it up because you wanted to have it shorter. Boom. And if we drag it longer, it's going to slow it down. So you see pretty much here the percentage of how fast or how slow the clip is. If I drag this to the left, it's going to be way faster. So now this is on 240% almost speed. If I drag it to the left, it's getting slower. So now it's about 60% percentage speed. So this can be also really helpful. If you learn your shortcuts for all of these different tools, you can just instantly like switch between them, and you don't have to go to your left, like select it and then choose it. So yeah, that's saving a lot of time. And the shortcuts you can see here right next to the tool or on the shortcut list, which we are going to provide you as well. Next up, we have the remix tool. This is really helpful for music. So if you have music, let's say we have that song and we want to match it to our edit length, you just go to the end of the music, you can change the length, and it's automatically going to change the duration. It's going to make perfect cuts, which is pretty cool to either make your clip longer, extend it, or shorten it. This tool is like really magical. You have to remember that tool. And next one is the razor blade, and the razor blade is for cutting. So we can make cuts here with the razor blade. Pressing C, it brings the razor blade up. You can make cuts, but it's still slower than just using the shortcuts. In this case, the shortcut would be Command K, and we are making a cut. So it's way faster, Command K, then just going to the left, picking the razor blade, making a cut, and going back to our main tool. So you see, shortcuts can save you tons of time, and I'm going to show you my shortcut list in a second, but let's go through the tools first so you know what the shortcut actually means. So here we have the pen tool, which can be pretty helpful. It's quite the same like here. If you want to create the mask, you just have the pen tool and you can like create a selection like that mask here. But the pen tool is to create a shape, and you also have that rectangle tool, create a rectangle shape, and is right away creating the graphic, which brings us back to the graphic tab, because here you can create all, you can edit these graphic shapes here, for example, and like center it or move it. You can also change the color. You can add a stroke around here, which is super helpful. I love that. It's super nice. You can choose between inner and outer stroke. You can also create like rounded shapes, you know, here now they're rounded edges, which can be pretty helpful. So now you can see, since we have selected a graphic element, we can edit it here. And the same with text. You can go in here and edit the text font, and you can choose between different fonts. You can center it and all different kind of stuff here in the Essential Graphics tab. And the last one, almost the last one, is just that hand tool creative. If you're in the comp, you have that hand tool, you can pretty much click and move. In After Effects, this one is really helpful, but yeah, I only use the hand tool when I'm like really close into that monitor here. If I do some masking, then here the hand tool can be really helpful because you can move freely without using these bars here. So if you create a mask, you go further, you create your mask. So the shortcut is pretty helpful here. For H, you have that hand tool, and otherwise you have to use that bars here. Yes, so in this case the hand tool can make sense. You can also use it here on the timeline, but I don't really use it in the timeline. So because you can just use your mouse, or you can use your trackpad to move to the left and to the right. And you also have that zoom tool, which you're going to shortcut C. You can like zoom in with it, of course, and you can zoom out. And you also have that text tool. You have the vertical text and horizontal text. So with that, you can just click in here. It's going to create your text layer, and you can write your text and create your text. Nice.